Hi everyone. In our pursuit of progress, we often forget that humans are remarkably short-sighted creatures. We consume more and more resources every day, but our consumption already far outstrips the Earth's ability to support us. We're borrowing from our future to support today's lifestyle. But could there be a technological path towards a more sustainable world? In this video, we discuss some ways in which advanced AI might be the game changer we need, allowing us to re-envision our future. Keep watching to learn more. This video has 3 parts: sustainability and AGI, why sustainability is hard, and how AGI can help. First section, sustainability and AGI. Sustainability is important to civilization in many ways, financially and so on, but in this video we're going to focus on the physical consumption of resources. The reason sustainability is important is because it's like spending twice as much money as you earn. It might be okay in the short term, but eventually it will catch up with you. The problem is not actually any individual's actions, but rather the sum of everyone's activities. The total resource consumption becomes unsustainable. It's like the concept of tragedy of the commons, where if there's a shared resource that everyone can use for free, then everyone is incentivized to use it as much as possible until the resource is completely depleted. One of the root causes of sustainability issues is exponential growth. Humans have an exponentially growing population as well as an exponentially increasing standard of living. Increased standard of living means increased consumption of energy. For example, the energy use per capita in high and middle income countries increased almost twofold, 1.97-fold actually, from 2001 to 2021. So in just 20 years, we've doubled the amount of energy that people are using in these higher income countries while also increasing the population there. And Earth is finite. It's finite and it's also a closed system. We're not really getting any resources from space at the moment. Everything that happens on Earth stays on Earth. So excessive resource use causes global warming, loss of biodiversity, and long-lasting ecological damage. In short, we have exponentially increasing use in a finite system, which is going to cause trouble in the long run. Switching over to AI for a moment, human-level AI, or AGI, is developing very rapidly. Its power is also increasing exponentially, and unfortunately, the AI alignment problem isn't fully solved, so that exponential increase could also be dangerous for us. If that exponential growth gets out of control, many people are rightly worried that AI could decide it doesn't really need humans anymore. With that aside, can we use the exponential growth of AGI to solve our other exponential problems? It might sound like fighting fire with fire, but the benefit of AGI is increased capacity for problem solving, which I think could be very useful here. In fact, my argument is that humanity actually needs AGI for our long-term survival. At a really high-level view, we're now a global civilization, and historically on Earth, most civilizations last an average of 330 years before they collapse. The problem is that our technology has increased to the point where any collapse could be pretty catastrophic. Like Albert Einstein said, World War IV would be fought with sticks and stones. So we only have one shot to create a sustainable civilization without burning through all of our metaphorical rocket fuel in a blaze of fire. Part 2. Why sustainability is hard. The basic problem, of course, is that humans are short-sighted and usually only think about themselves. In aggregate, this leads to some negative outcomes, like the tragedy of the commons that I mentioned earlier. No one has an incentive to conserve resources on their own if everyone else is just going to keep doing the same thing. Our modern society is based on economic growth. Advancing technology means increased standard of living, but also means increased energy use, as I mentioned earlier, which is unsustainable. And to make matters worse, our whole economy is based on the idea of never-ending growth. We don't have any disinterested, intelligent agents that can look at the state of the world and say, this is not how things should be, because every intelligent agent is actually self-interested. And there are too many of us and too many conflicting opinions. In my opinion, if we could apply Rawls' veil of ignorance from philosophy, where you have to decide what society looks like before you know who you're going to be in society, which ensures more equal outcomes from everyone. If we could do that, that would address a lot of our issues, but the problem is no one has this veil of ignorance. Everyone is embodied in society. Let's talk about what survival used to look like. Long-term survival of the species used to just require finding a mate, having children, and keeping everyone as well-fed, healthy, and safe as possible during your lifetime. At some point, long-term survival began to require the cooperation of groups of people, leading to code of laws in countries. And now, with issues like climate change, long-term survival requires strategic planning and enough centralized authority to enforce the required edicts. We aren't doing very well at this as a species, and I'm not picking on specific countries here. As a whole, we are not doing very well. To explain it in a different way, the same way that an AI can be optimized for a single fitness function, and that can lead to the desired outcome but lots of negative side effects, each human is optimizing on their own in a greedy way, without considering global consequences. The thing is, our fitness function should include the long-term survival of our species. It's just difficult for us to think that way. Human brains have layer on top of layer. We have all this old wiring that tells us to stay away from predators and find food and get enough sleep and so on. And we have some higher levels that encourage socialization and cooperation and whatnot, but we are fundamentally pretty selfish because that's what evolution encouraged in us when we were optimizing for the single fitness function of survival of the fittest. This is one of the main reasons that I think AI can really help us in this regard. AI would not have these same biases or limitations, except whatever arises from the training data, of course. But in theory, an AI is an entirely new mind created at the current moment instead of having eons of history baked into it. So let me ask, what might you do if you were placed into the world of today with substantial power to effect change? Because change is definitely needed. Part 3, how AGI can help. There are a lot of ways that advanced AI can help humans, of course, but we're just focusing on reducing resource consumption for the moment. AI could do this by optimizing existing technology, leveraging data to create custom-tailored solutions, helping humans make macro decisions, and so on. In terms of resources overall, we're currently using the resources of 1.8 Earths, according to a study which I'll link in the description below. In other words, we need basically 2 Earths to rejuvenate all of the resources that we're currently using. We've used up 1/3 of Earth's resources in the last 30 years in a non-renewable way. I don't know what the breakdown of those resources are, but let's talk about a few that come to mind. Energy is a huge one, right? I already mentioned that the amount of energy consumed per capita in mid and upper income countries has doubled in the last 20 years. To make matters worse, the amount of energy we need to use in order to extract fossil fuels from the ground is increasing. In other words, the ROI on energy is getting worse. Well, I think AI will help us build control systems that can contain nuclear fusion, and that will be a great energy source for us. Humans are already on track to figure it out within the next 10 to 15 years, so surely AI will give us a good boost there. In terms of other resources, I think the major ones are food and waste. There have been some studies that the maximum sustainable population of Earth in terms of food is 8 to 10 billion people. We're already at 8 billion people. We're probably not using our resources optimally as well, so like I said, we are overusing Earth's resources at the moment. We've maxed out on arable land, using as much of it for food production as possible, pouring fertilizer on, trying to extract as many calories as possible from land. It's not in a very sustainable way. The easiest way to ensure sustainability in this regard is to make sure we don't have too many people, of course. And again, that's difficult to ensure when humans are all making their own decisions with partial information as to their situation. The other half of it is waste processing. And I imagine waste processing will become vastly more efficient when we start to develop nanotechnology with the help of AI, though you would have to trade energy in order to get those resources back again. Second, I think AI will help optimize existing technology a lot too, especially transportation and logistics, figuring out where things are supposed to go and getting them there. Transportation as a whole has the biggest emissions of any sector. It's 28% of global emissions. So using algorithms to figure out logistics better, building more efficient mechanisms of actually providing transportation, having centralized mechanisms of transportation like trains and public transit instead of individual mechanisms is all going to add to our efficiency. There are even examples closer to home of where technology improves performance and carbon emissions. For example, smart light bulbs, which actually consume less energy, might turn off automatically when you're not in the room or when you're away from home, for example. Very simple and very easy to build, but potentially having a large impact at scale. Third, leveraging data to create custom-tailored solutions. I think this is a big trend in our society at the moment, right? We're gathering data on everything, and we're trying to provide customized services like Netflix to everybody. Well, we're gathering more and more data, and AI is very good at processing that data. So I think it will increasingly allow each person to be evaluated in isolation and provided with whatever is best for them. For example, social safety nets. Instead of trying to come up with a policy that covers everybody, each situation can be evaluated on its own. And medical analysis, for example, there might be nanobots inside someone or just a lot of data collected on their health, and that can be used to make individualized decisions. This could even help with our political systems. Even if a human maintains ultimate command, this custom data could be used to figure out which issues people care about and maybe query them on those questions, enable them to have a more direct participation in democracy, for example. And finally, fourth, I think AI would do a great job at advising humanity on big picture decisions. We already mentioned politics in general, but AI could help advise on really tricky issues to figure out, including, for example, how to maintain a steady birth rate. Again, on the customized data theme, perhaps offering tax breaks to specific couples that are living in areas where the birth rate is not good could be really effective. And again, better than sweeping legislation that's trying to work for everybody. Another area could be wealth distribution, in other words, taxation. That's another example of a policy that's trying to fit everybody. I heard that Washington State introduced a wealth tax of 7% on the highest income individuals, and the government expected it to bring in $250 million in tax revenue, but it actually brought in $850 million in tax revenue. And they're taking all that money to fund schools. That may have been a plus or a minus depending on your view of the situation, but it's an example of an unexpected situation that ended up being very positive for the government as a whole, which an AI may have been able to identify. And finally, I think AI would be extremely helpful in international relations, reducing the chance of armed conflict conflict, reducing the chance of nuclear war, and so on. Because AIs can devise cryptographic protocols between themselves to prove that they're not doing certain things, for example, which is always very difficult for us humans to ensure. So finally, in conclusion, currently we're burning through a lot more resources than is sustainable here on planet Earth. And for those of us who don't want our descendants to be forced to abandon the planet, there's still hope, but we have to overcome a lot of very short-sighted thinking that comes naturally to humans. And there are a lot of potential ways that AI could help us through that thought process. What would you do if you had built an AGI? What problem would you try to solve? Let me know in the comments. And if you like this video, you might want to check out this one about how we could tell whether we had actually created AGI and whether that has already happened. That's all I have for today. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.